If you are from South Korea or any familiar with the country, you've heard about their impossible to achieve beauty standards. A V-shaped face, double eyelids, and big eyes, perfectly white and aligned teeth, a high nose bridge, and a slim nose. Scarily pale skin, skinny legs. Some people spend thousands trying to achieve this look. Others die for it on extensive surgeries. Looking good isn't just a matter of self-esteem, but social etiquette, as you're seen as lazy and even dirty because you can't take care of yourself. I was lucky, you see. I already had most of the package naturally. I've heard more than once from other people they'd kill for my looks. But beauty always comes at a price. If you're too pretty, kids bully you throughout your childhood. They cut and pull your hair, bruise your skin, cut off and stain your clothes, then later do plastic surgery to achieve a face similar to yours and get made fun of by other people who've done the same because they've obviously undergone plastic surgery. Go figure, right? Be born beautiful and get bullied, be born ugly and do things to achieve beauty and get made fun of regardless. It's a system you simply can't beat. Oh no, you're wondering, but what if you decide to remain ugly or just can't afford plastic surgery? Well, worse for you. My friend Irene was part of the group that was too poor to afford it. She's the only friend I've ever had. I was bullied, and changing schools did nothing when I'm an absolute ray of sunshine. Because of bullying, misery loves company, I guess. Though in her case, lack of beauty is the matter. She had a wide square face, crooked teeth, uneven eyes, a darker skin tone, everything people in this country seem to think it's unattractive. She was an easy target for students and teachers to bully. No matter how many times I defended her, it didn't help that, compared to me, she looked even worse to their eyes. It saddens me to see how wrong they are. Irene is beautiful, both inside and outside. She's the kindest, most caring, most radiant person you'll ever meet. And I'll never forgive myself for letting the bitterness of others' hate turn her into a monster, just because she didn't look like a carbon copy of everyone else. Yes, I think at this point it's safe to say she is a monster. Whatever she became isn't human anymore, but I'll get to it. Since we're both high school seniors, we're close to the age most people get plastic surgery as graduation gifts, and the insecurity has been eating her way more than ever since the school year started. She had been saving up some money to get at least her eyelids done, but turns out the money wasn't nearly enough, and her parents really couldn't blow their money into it. She then turned into illegality, surgeons that would operate minors without parental consent, or that would accept workforce as a payment, or even largely discounted unknown clinics. I tried to discourage her, I really did. She was already beautiful, and would be risking her health and life. However, what was trivial to me meant the world to her, and I did everything I could to help her. From skincare products I bought to a dentist appointment for her braces. By the time the beginning of summer was nearing its end, she was hiding behind thick bangs and foundation that was way too light for her face, and the bullying never stopped. Until one day, after our last half summer vacation, Irene came back, beautiful. She even had the thin legs I lacked, and I couldn't recognize her at first, as she was a completely different person. People were at awe, not only because of her new appearance, but also for the miraculous recovery. She had a blepharoplasty, a few different subtypes of rhinoplasty, liposuction, breast implants, dental surgery, and drastic jaw shaving, not mentioning cheek, lip, and AGL saw fillers, and skin whitening treatments. That's a lot for one person to go through, especially all at once. And the worst part was being left out, even by her. One day she decided to and made all arrangements to have plastic surgery, and never once told me. Never once called me to say she was fine and recovering. Never once thought of telling me about her new look. All of a sudden, I was just part of her past. Nonetheless, no questions were asked. Beauty was all that mattered, at least to them. She finally had the confidence to be herself, unapologetically, going as far as to ask a boy she liked out on a date. Though life has seasoned me, and I knew that miracles don't happen, people wouldn't change their minds about her so easily, and this ride was about to crash. I was proven right when the boy she confessed to made fun of her for being plastic. That was the end of her newfound self-esteem. She called me crying and I almost punched him square in the face. Told you I was a ray of sunshine. I tried to comfort her in every way I could until she asked me the question that prompted me to write this story. There's no way to win, is there? No matter how hard or how effortless it comes to you, it's never good enough. We roamed through the streets mindlessly that afternoon, talking about trivial things. We both knew there was an underlying issue we had to face. However, we tried to brush it off. Pointlessness. You know it hurts more if you talk about it. We parted ways when it was past dusk, and the streets were already dark. I came back home and barely slept. Irene decided she needed to do better with her appearance. The very next day, she came to school different than before. The results could be described as uncanny. You've heard of wax dolls, right? That's how she looked. The good characteristics were so unfazed that she looked unreal in a bad sense. Eyes too large, cheeks too full, breast even bigger than before. You get the idea. She was starting to become what's known as a Gangnam uni here in Korea. Weeks passed and I began to worry more and more about her. But every time I tried to talk to Irene, she ignored me or avoided me. I could see through her facade of confidence it was all bullshit. And last week I had enough of pretending and asked the teacher to talk to her. At this point her obsession was way past unhealthy, and she was risking her own life and spending money. God knows where it came from. That teacher had disappeared and is now officially declared as missing. At this point, I didn't know what to believe anymore. Could my friend have anything to do with it? Said teacher was last seen walking around her neighborhood. Anytime I tried to call her house, no one would ever pick up. But I wanted to talk to her and her parents and do something. Friday came and I went to her house after school. Seeing the place where we spent so many afternoons as kids playing broke my heart. I hadn't noticed before how much we had drifted apart. I rang the doorbell determined to make things work again, but no one answered. I knew Irene wasn't home, but her parents were supposed to be. The lights were on after all. So I did something I'm not very proud of. I opened the door with the spare key they had under a plant vase and entered the house. As soon as I opened the door, I could feel in every single bone of my body that something was wrong. The putrid smell of decay entered my nostrils and filled my lungs until I almost puked. Walking through the house made me realize very quickly that whatever was rotting wasn't just the spoiled food in the sink or the trash that hadn't been taken out in weeks, but something much more sinister. I was genuinely afraid of what could have happened, knowing her parents would have never left the house get this bad under any circumstances. I looked through the living room, kitchen, bathrooms, and her parents' bedroom and found everything just as messy, dirty, and stinky. But I couldn't yet figure out where the smell was coming from. The only place left to look was Irene's bedroom. Like the rest of the house, it was all filled with trash, dirty dishes, clothes everywhere. It was dark and the air was damp, but the smell of putrefaction was even stronger here. But before I looked through everything, I heard the front door open and hid inside her wardrobe, letting only a small part open to see what was going on. I soon regretted my choice as the rotting smell became absolutely unbearable. I could barely breathe inside the putrid, small and dark space, feeling something else brush against my skin and cause me shivers. However, there was no time to hide elsewhere. Irene entered her bedroom in determined footsteps and took something out of the space under her bed. When I saw it, I didn't bother opening. It looked like a manicure kit or something like that, but it was something else entirely. She had knives, files, sewing needles, and thread, scissors, and other things that didn't make a lot of sense at the time. Those things started to make sense as she proceeded to take a bottle filled with a yellow, thick, and bloody liquid and used a syringe to inject it into her cheeks and aegiosol, and later her boobs. She looked so stuffed as if about to burst. The procedure didn't stop, and now it was time for her legs. They were so skinny it was skin and bones at this point. But as I thought there was nothing else to take, Irene started to use that same syringe to extract the yellow liquid from her legs and put it inside the bottle. It was then I realized it was pus, and her wounds were so infected she was rotting inside, kept alive God knows how. Later on, I watched her cut right at her jawline with the small knife, tearing apart her skin, fat, and muscles until she reached her bone. Blood dripped from the wound, soaking the paper white skin of her bony shoulders. When the hole was big enough, she put the knife aside and got the nail file and started filing her bone. Little flakes of bone fell over her shoulders on the ground, almost like snow. The noise it made was so horrifying that I shiver even by just remembering it right now. I found courage I didn't know I had back then to prevent me from vomiting upon the sight. Every time blood soaked the bone, too much to keep on working, she just got a piece of cloth to soak it off and kept on filing. By the end of it, her jaw was so thin, it was impossible that she still had enough strength to bite and chew food. Though as she was satisfied, she got the needle and thread and started to sew the wound back closed, first the muscles and then the skin. And each time the needle went through her skin, crudely stitching it, it returned to normal as if there had been no incision, like magic. Suddenly there was no stitches, no blood, no scars, nothing at all, just smooth, ghostly white skin. While trying not to puke, I accidentally moved and something fell over me. A body, a rotting corpse whose skin was melting away by the hot and humid weather. I recognized as her mother by the hair that kept falling over me. It wasn't just the two of us, as I soon knew, since her father was also there on my other side, and I kept seeing extra pieces of arms and legs that I can only assume are other people. Irene also murdered? The things that kept brushing against my skin weren't clothes, they were corpses, and I had to make them company while sitting through the horror show until she finally got tired of shaping herself to be as uncanny as a living thing can possibly be. After a few hours, Irene had left for good, and I took enough courage to leave her wardrobe, running away from her house like a mad woman. I had seen something that cursed my eyes forever. Even now, when I lie down to sleep, I can still see and hear her filing her jawbone. It's a noise you can't forget, a sight you can't forget. No matter how many showers I take, I can never clean off the smell of a rotting corpse that reeks from my skin. I don't know what to do or how to do. I only know one thing: Irene must be stopped. Whatever monster she became, I can't let her exist like this. It's something I owe to the good, kind-hearted girl I was once friends with. I'm afraid that whatever humanity she had left is gone, and not even our years of friendship will be enough to protect me against her.